What's up? What's up? All right. Awesome. So let's get right into it, traders. Welcome back to another live stream. This is our, I believe, our third week so far, and this week will make us our second week since we have changed our schedule. So far it's been going good, but overall, let's see what we could see as far as opportunities in the market for today. And then we're also going to go over potential talks about World War III, or some of the news, see what they are saying about the market, and then from there, we should have a better idea of where we could head. All right, so real quick, I'm just gonna go on my chart here. So this is gold currently. We had a nice entry here yesterday around the zone for the sell. I should have called that signal for you guys. I didn't. I ended up entering the trade anyway. I made some profit on there. But this was a great setup at daily entry from last night. So that was a great setup right there. Beautiful trade. So right now, daily entry is around this area. I'm just going to mark it. All right, there it is. I just marked it right there. So now we know, okay, daily entry is right there. We're just going to highlight it. And there it is. So around this zone, I know around this zone, this is where daily entry is at for the day overall. So on the smaller time frame, this is how it looks. Just make it a little bit smaller, similar to the one from before. All right, there it is, just like that. Yeah, that's fine right there. So now we know from this area where we're going to head to. But I do think we're going to get a retracement, a pullback for a re-entry sell, because as of right now, price is selling. Let's go ahead and remove this trend line as well. Remove this one as well. For right now, well, let's leave it. Let's see like this. That'll be a red downtrend line. And then on the H1 time frame, we still are on a support zone, so I have my daily entry line to highlight that area for me, so I know what the hell is going to happen from there. But overall, we definitely going to be getting some nice movements. So what I think could happen here so far, and I'm not entering a trade as of right now on gold just yet, just looking at it as well. It's looking bearish right now, but overall gold has been on an uptrend. So on a higher time frame, we are definitely on a bullish momentum still. So this is how it would look on the H4 time frame. Just like that. So now in the H4 time frame, I know what's going on, but I also want to go ahead and draw a uptrend line here, which is very important, because if that uptrend line is broken, then I know price is going to go for a long-term sell if it breaks the low. So meaning this is what would have to happen, guys. Zoom in. Let's go ahead and turn this on. Okay. So right now on gold, price can potentially go up, give us a retest for a sell here, and then go down, or price could just go down from here and keep going down. So I'll be watching it to see exactly what's the game plan. But as of right now, based on my analysis from the weekly that I did, this weekly zone, we now have a full bearish candle for the weekly. For the daily right now, we have an uptrend line and also a daily bullish candle. So price may end up going in that direction. So let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Retest support, retest support, retest support, retest support. Right now we at that support zone. Later on tonight we're going to get some breakouts. Overall price is looking very bearish. There it is. So right now it looks like it wants to go for a sell early, but I highly think that gold could go ahead and reach the 50 MA to give a re-entry opportunity. So I could see that potentially happening as well. So what that would look like is price going up. We're giving an entry here for a sell to keep going down. Or if not, price will just start selling exactly from here and just keep going down. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what's going on with that. Let's go here on the H4. Gold is definitely at a high point right now on all the stochastic. So whenever we get that retest, that could definitely be a re-entry opportunity for us to sell it if price don't start selling right now. But as of right now, if you notice, price is above the daily entry. So the daily entry from the Jackpot strategy, right now price is above it. Alright, so as price decides to keep going in a specific direction, it's either going to make its way lower from that area, lower from that daily entry line, or price is going to go back up, give a retest at the 50 MA, and then continue dropping. Alright, so with that right there, we could see potential opportunities. We'll just wait and see what we actually do get from it. But it's a great setup. So far, I'm loving the drop on gold. It's looking bearish, and based on the analysis we did on Sunday when we talked about this right here, we talked about this and we noticed price was at a top H4 resistance zone, right, from the Bollinger Band. Now price ended up selling nicely, but it have not fully reached the destination that it wants to reach just yet. So either we're gonna get a retest, so price could give us a sell entry to go down here to middle Bollinger Band, or price starts selling now to go to middle Bollinger Band, or price respects this zone and continue making higher highs. So either way, we'll have to find a way to take action on this trade and be able to capitalize on it. So execution is going to be key. yesterday, we did have a good opportunity to execute. I ain't gonna lie about that. That opportunity last night, it was beautiful. It was beautiful, no lie. But the execution, at least for me on my part, because I knew it was like so early in the week, I did not give it as much attention as I maybe should have to really capitalize on the overall move. And that's also because I don't know exactly what's going to happen just because of all the tension that is going on right now. But now I'm already seeing an overall perspective of what could potentially happen. So I'll be ready to send some signals real soon here. But this was a good setup, a good trade, pretty smooth. It went hundreds of pips. So right now it's at a daily entry, and we soon going to be able to get another entry opportunity. So my schedule has been a bit different. I've changed it just a little bit. Basically, I trade during the London session as well. So right now, the time we're showing up, we used to show up in the morning and trade the morning session, but the night session we recently started doing that like last week. So it's been going smooth. I'm seeing the market very clear. I'm able to take action. So I'm getting ready here, guys, to really lock in, and I want you guys to be on the same page too. So those that are watching and are serious, you guys are the ones that's not only going to see the growth, but also be part of the growth and do it for yourself as well. Because essentially, everything I'm showing you guys here is what I want you guys to understand how to do for yourself. You know, like trading is the best skill set you could ever learn. If you could learn this and master this and build the mindset to really become a profitable trader and the discipline to become a profitable trader, you know, everything would work out for you. You know, it takes a lot of focus. It takes a lot of focus and dedication. So with that being said, let's look at NAS real quick. But damn, that gold is looking like it wants to drop now. Like it wants to go fast for a sell right now. It's moving very, very fast. Now, one thing I want you guys to notice as well on gold. Gold is actually underneath our key zones, which is right here. Key zone high, key zone entry low. I'm hoping we get a retest here for a better sell entry for me, but we'll see how it all plays out soon. So NAS 100. NAS 100, I expected a sell earlier today, and then price actually did start selling, but now it's giving us a re-entry opportunity for the sell. All I'm going to do here is just mark the zone where price is at right now, around where price is at right now, just to acknowledge that there is a major resistance zone on the H1 time frame right about here for NAS 100, and it's going back up pretty fast actually. So let's see if price respects that zone this week. If not, we're going to have NAS 100 on a meltdown. All right, so as of right now, this is how it's looking. It is looking pretty bearish, but at the same time, you see this line that I have here? This was a downtrend line that I created, but price broke through it, went above it, so now it became a new uptrend line. So with this new uptrend line here, we're going to keep it here just like that. Mark this area as a true resistance zone, and that's about it. If NAS breaks this high that I'm placing right now for the week, then NAS is going to keep buying long term. Okay, so there it is. Major high. I'm gonna call this major high. Alright, so we have major high here. So at least I know if price breaks that zone, what to expect, you know? You gotta know. Alright, let's leave that just like that. Besides that, guys, it's pretty simple. Overall, the setups that we have this week. So as of right now, I'm looking for NAS potential sales as of right now. And then I'm looking at gold potential buys if it respects the trend line that it's at right now. If not, then it's definitely going to go down for sale. So I'll be waiting on that to actually happen here. But yeah, that's pretty much it. But besides that, guys, there's different things that's going on in the world, man, that we need to find out. Let's go to just regular YouTube. Alright, let's search World War III. It's potential World War III, guys. It's not really World War III yet. We don't know that yet. Alright, let's see what we're gonna watch. I haven't seen this yet, so I'm gonna watch this soon. Big announcement on Ukraine and Iran. Oh, what it actually look like. Wow. A lot of scary stuff on here. Let's see this real quick.
Turn your passion into your profession. Shopify makes it easy to sell online.
Oh, when I worked so hard in the first term, and if I got prices down, remember I was the only one to ever get prices down for a full year, but I'd get them down like 2%, and I thought it was like a big deal. Well, we're getting...
Oh, I gotta restart Facebook. Let me restart the Facebook stream. Hang on a moment. Just gotta do that. Just gotta do that. We're back on Facebook.
Today, the Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime. Now, as Prime Minister, I've made it clear time and again, Israel will never allow those who call for our annihilation to develop the means to achieve that goal. Tonight, Israel backs those words with action. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's leading nuclear scientists working on the Iranian bomb. We also struck at the heart of Iran's ballistic missile program. Last year, Iran fired 300 ballistic missiles at Israel. Each of these missiles carries a ton of explosives and threatens the lives of hundreds of people. Soon, those missiles could carry a nuclear payload, threatening the lives not of hundreds, but of millions. Iran is gearing up to produce 10,000s of those ballistic missiles within 3 years. Now just imagine 10,000 tons of TNT landing on a country the size of New Jersey. This is an intolerable threat. It too must be stopped. Iran is now working on what it calls the new plan to destroy Israel. You see, the old plan failed. Iran and its proxies try to encircle Israel with a ring of fire
Do you guys?
and to attack us with the
Do you guys? I mean, I'm still learning more about everything that's going on. But do you guys think this guy right here, the prime minister or whatever, do you guys think he's lying or just pushing out a propaganda so people could be against Iran? Or is Israel really the victim here? That's my question for it all. And not only that, you know, if it does get bad, then I want to know, like, which countries are allies with Israel and Iran, just so I can get a bigger overall picture on the whole situation. But man, this is crazy what's going on.
horrible attack of October 7th. But the people of Israel, the soldiers of Israel, rose like lions to defend our country. We crushed Hamas, we devastated Hezbollah, we hit Iranian proxies in Syria and Yemen. And when Iran directly attacked us twice last year, we struck back inside Iran itself. Yet in defending ourselves, we also defend others. We defend our Arab neighbors. They too have suffered from Iran's campaign of chaos and carnage. Our actions against Iran's proxy Hezbollah led to the establishment of a new government in Lebanon and the collapse of Assad's murderous regime in Syria. The peoples of those two countries now have a chance for a different future, a better future. So too do the brave people of Iran. And I have a message for them. Our
¿Quieres crear una tienda online pero no sabes cómo empezar? Con el hosting administrado para WooCommerce de Hostinger puedes saltar.
This is CNN Breaking News.
All right, the breaking news this morning, major breaking news. Israel says it has launched an unprecedented attack on Iran, targeting the country's nuclear sites and top military leaders, and the operation very much ongoing. The Israel Defense Forces say they used 200 fighter jets, striking more than 100 targets so far across the country. And we just got new reaction from President Trump. We'll have much more on that in just a moment. Video shows explosions at one of the sites in northwest Iran. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the attack struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear program and they would last, quote, as many days as it takes. Black plumes of smoke rose over Natanz. That's the site of Iran's main nuclear enrichment facility. The country's atomic energy agency says the attack there caused, quote, superficial damage. Iran State TV says the strikes killed several top military leaders and nuclear scientists, including 3 of the most powerful people in the country. The commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guard, the country's highest-ranking military officer, and its former national security chief.
CNN's Kylie Atwood now reporting that the Trump administration is still hoping that nuclear talks with Iran will go ahead as planned this weekend in Amman. That is according to 2 sources familiar with the matter. A U.S. official saying we still intend to have talks Sunday. And just this morning, President Trump is offering his first public reaction to this major escalation in the Middle East. CNN's Elena Treen joining us right now for the latest on that angle. Elena, what are you hearing from the White House right now?
Yeah, this is the first official response we have gotten from President Donald Trump this morning. Came in just moments ago. And I will note, just before I get into it, that this is a bit in contrast with what we have been hearing now from the White House and from the Trump administration, specifically from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, that the U.S. had no involvement whatsoever in these strikes. So the statement from him, he posted this on his Truth Social website. He said that he gave Iran chance after chance to try and make this deal, but that they couldn't get it done. He said that he warned them of the manpower that both the United States and Israel has, and that those took a hardline position during these negotiations in Iran over a potential nuclear deal are, quote, all dead now. And then he said, quote, there has already been great death and destruction, but there is still time to make this slaughter, with the next already planned attacks being even more brutal, come to an end. Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left and save what was once known as the Iranian Empire. No more death, no more destruction. Just do it before it is too late. Now, Kate, you mentioned this, but Kylie Atwood reporting that they are still hoping to have this next round of talks on Sunday in Oman. I will note that it is very hard to see that the Iranians are going to want to do that at this point. But from our conversations behind closed doors with some of these sources, they are saying that they are hoping they can still move forward with a potential nuclear deal. They do want that to be really the way to salvage all of this before more attacks begin to continue. You kind of heard the president himself reiterate that. Now, a few things I also want to point out is that we did hear from Secretary of State Marco Rubio yesterday saying, again, that the U.S. had no involvement in this and that Israel believed that this action was necessary for self-defense. But we do know as well that Trump administration officials, people here at the White House, they were given aware and told to prepare for these strikes. So they were bracing for this yesterday when we saw those first strikes hit in Iran. And I also know, when I reported this with Kylie as well, is that the president had convened a cabinet level meeting last night as these strikes were happening. That meeting, I would like to point out, was actually scheduled before Israel began its attack. They wanted to start to coordinate what the official U.S. response would be. So again, adding to the point that they kind of knew about this. Now, of course, I think the big picture here is that, one, President Donald Trump has not kept quiet about his frustrations with Iran and for what he believes is a very slow pace in the progression of talks over a nuclear deal. Again, to reiterate, they still want to have those talks. They do not believe that this deal is not unsalvageable, but of course, these attacks really throw that into question. Another big question I have, and I'm hoping to get answers from this White House today, is whether or not President Donald Trump spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu specifically and directly about this, and whether he tried to warn them against this, because we know in the past, the president has told Netanyahu not to do this while these talks over a nuclear deal played out. But clearly, this administration was aware that this would happen, and now they're trying to make their response known in that they want these talks to continue.
Joining us now, CNN Chief International.
My work is easy because I use ClickUp. Here's how I keep track of all my tasks. I start by brain dumping everything I need to get done in a list view. Next, I set a priority and a due date to keep things on track. I create custom statuses to organize my progress exactly how I want it. I like to add the action items field so AI can show me the next steps. I add my teammates as watchers so they're in the loop. ClickUp makes work easy.
Anchor Christian Amanpour and CNN's Oren Lieberman in Jerusalem for us. First to you, Christian. When you are looking at this, Israel says it's going to keep these attacks ongoing. Iran has already started to retaliate. Do you see this as an all-out war now?
Well, it just depends actually on Iran's ability to retaliate and what happens next and whether the United States or others get involved. As you know, publicly the US said that Israel did it alone, unilateral. Here in Europe, our allies have backed off. They've said they've had nothing to do with it, and they haven't even said that they would, like the last time, join any protection of the skies over Israel like they did the last time. So people are really not wanting to get more involved, and they're calling for it to actually calm down and for some kind of ceasefire. That looks unlikely, and I think what's really interesting for the United States and for you all to figure out is what is coming out of Israeli reports. Israeli reporters are saying that there seems to be a much higher level of coordination between the United States and Israel than is being said publicly, and that even some of the words, some of the actions, including potentially the so-called meeting that's meant to be happening to continue a nuclear deal this weekend in Oman, that was all potentially part of a deception. So I think that is going to be very interesting to look at the extent of the U.S. Action in this and permission. What we do know is that Prime Minister Netanyahu has been itching for this fight for years. And we also know that no other American president has allowed any Israeli Prime Minister to take this kind of action. This will be the first time that this kind of action has been permitted or greenlit or whatever you want to call it by an American president. If you remember, the crisis stems from President Trump pulling out of the nuclear agreement back in his first term. From that moment when Iran...
CNN's Caitlin Collins, who's in Canada with the president, got word that he's cutting his trip short there from the G7 and returning to Washington tonight, further amplifying the notion that the U.S. may be getting involved in the fight. We don't know for sure yet. In addition to all of that, there was this today. from Israel's prime minister, saying he would not rule out a strike on Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei.
So are you going to target the supreme leader?
Look, we're doing what we need to do. I'm not going to get into the details, but we've targeted their top nuclear scientists. It's basically Hitler's nuclear team.
But U.S. officials tell us that the president flatly rejected a plan, an opportunity that the Israelis had to take out the supreme leader. Do you understand his concern? My understanding is his concern is that this would escalate the conflict beyond where it is already.
It's not going to escalate the conflict. It's going to end the conflict.
That conflict so far has taken at least 24 lives in Israel, 224 in Iran, according to authorities in each country. But it's that evacuation warning from the president tonight and what it could mean, which starts us off. CNN Chief White House correspondent Caitlin Collins is in Canada, has some new reporting on it. She joins us from Calgary, Alberta. What is the White House saying about President Trump's declaration that everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran, and then the word that he's coming back to the White House?
Yeah, Anderson, it's hard to see how those are not tied together because the White House specifically cited what is happening in the Middle East for why President Trump is cutting his trip here in Canada short. I flew with President Trump on Air Force One yesterday. He arrived late last night in Calgary to head to this summit with world leaders. He had an entire day of meetings scheduled for tomorrow, including a meeting, I should note, with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as well, and on that list of everything that these leaders were going to talk about. But the White House has decided to cut this trip short so the president can return to Washington tonight, citing exactly what is happening inside the Middle East. We've talked to officials about the president's post on Truth Social earlier that everyone who lives in Tehran should evacuate. Obviously, that is millions of people, Anderson, and a quite urgent warning from the President of the United States. One official said it just reflected the reality of the situation of trying to get Iran to the table as they are trying to sort this out, with the president still voicing confidence that some kind of deal with Iran could be made after obviously those talks kind of fell apart or entirely fell apart after Israel first struck Iran late last week. And so, Anderson, we're still talking to people and trying to figure out what this means and why there is this newfound sense of urgency to the president returning to Washington to go and meet with his team. We did see several of his national security members who were there in Washington earlier. That includes the vice president, the Joint Chiefs chairman, who were meeting at the White House, in addition to announcements from the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth about some aircraft carrier movement as they're basically posturing to make sure they're protecting the U.S. forces who are in the region right now. I will note one person who's here on the trip with President Trump is the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. I'm told he's been briefing him throughout the day on the latest and the updates that we've been seeing. And the president has also had several conversations with the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. And so everyone is watching, obviously, what is happening in the Middle East and also why the
Well, there have been right now a huge question mark over what is happening in Tehran, what may be happening shortly in Tehran based on President Trump's somewhat ominous posts. We are hearing reports of thousands and thousands of people in that city of 10 million taking to the streets and trying to go in their cars and get out of the city. Reports of heavy traffic jams clogging up the streets, but very little clarity as to what exactly is going on, and all of that also being fueled, as you mentioned earlier in the show, by these comments from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, where he really would not rule out the possibility that regime change.
All right, let's see what we got here.
Bring in Halima Croft, Global Head of Commodity Strategy at RBC Capital Markets and a CNBC contributor. This about what you would expect with something like this?
This is about what we'd expect. I think the key thing to watch now will be what will the Iranian retaliation look like beyond the drone strike that we saw yesterday. Obviously, people will be paying attention to the regional energy infrastructure. There's a lot of concern over the Strait of Hormuz. 20% of global oil supply goes through there on a daily basis. But I do think the real question is, do the Iranians do what they did in 2019 when they targeted pipelines, tankers, hit Saudi Arabia's Abqaiq facility. We have a playbook for what Iran can do. I think it looks more like 2019 than the Straits of Hormuz.
So we've seen what they've done in the past, and you don't think they have the ability to make it far worse, or?
Oh, I think 2019 is far worse. And the question about Straits of Hormuz is, can they close the Straits of Hormuz? I've heard assessments that it would be very difficult for the Iranians to close the Straits of Hormuz given the presence of the U.S. Fifth Fleet in Bahrain, but they could target tankers there. They could mine the Straits. We did see a lot of this going on during the Iran-Iraq war in the 80s. Again, the question is going to be, what do the Iranians do? Do they try to internationalize the cost of what happened last night by trying to raise oil prices further? Do they just target Israel? Do they try to off-ramp the situation? But this is such an amazing escalation in terms of hitting not only the Natanz enrichment facility, head of the Revolutionary Guard killed last night, a number of top scientists, top generals killed. Like, this is a devastating blow.
If they were able to close the Straits of Hormuz, as unlikely as it seems, I think JP Morgan has said the worst case is you're talking about a super spike.
Oh, of course it'd be a super strike. But again, I don't even think they need to do that to have oil prices move higher from here. Again, I would pay attention to facilities across the region. Iran backs militias in Iraq. They could target, Iraq's 4 million barrel plus production. Again, we saw a playbook in 2019. When we reimposed maximum pressure sanctions, the Iranians hit tankers off the coast of UAE, they hit pipelines, they hit Saudi Arabia's Abqaiq facility, taking off half of Saudi's production temporarily. It is noteworthy that countries in the region, such as Saudi Arabia, Qatar, have come out and condemned the Israeli action. They do not want to be targeted by Iran this time around. So again, there's a lot to be watching in terms of the region, in terms of oil.
My guess is they probably are not sorry to see Iran's nuclear ambitions set back, even though they don't want to say that.
Well, I think this is what they have to walk a line between being content with Iran's nuclear ambitions being set back, but also they do not want to be the target of any Iranian retaliation. So they normalize, the Saudis normalize relations with Iran in 2023. They are not best of friends, but they want to de-risk the neighborhood. So again, I think they are trying to hope that the Iranians don't turn their attention to them.
You're all about oil, but I'm just wondering about what the response for Israel, what that holds. Is the Iron Dome totally replenished from all the?
Well, we have said that we have helped replenish Iron Dome. I think the really interesting question is, does the United States get involved in this conflict?
Further.
Because yes, Natanz was hit, but that is not the more serious Iranian enrichment facility. That is Fordo. That is a much more impenetrable facility. That's where the high-speed centrifuges are located. That's where they are enriching uranium at near weapons grade level. That facility was not hit. And there is a view in security circles that that would require U.S. assistance. They will need our bunker-busting bombs to take out Fordo. So it was a blow against one facility, but it looks like Fordo is still standing.
They have some of our bunker-busting bombs?
We have
Are we the only ones able to deploy?
So there is a view, and I think it's a view that was widely held in Western intelligence services, that Israel does not have the capabilities to fully dismantle Fordo. And that, again, the Iranians have transferred their faster centrifuges for Fordo for a reason. It's much more impenetrable. So the question is, do they reconstitute their program? Does the United States get more involved?
Are we looking for Iran knows that, and then we would, to get involved to that extent, that you think that they'd have to directly attack some of our assets?
I think that the key question, or the red line for President Trump, has always been, and again, he's somebody who does not want U.S. engagement in the Middle East militarily on an extended basis, but he has this red line, or he's had this red line in this first administration of no Americans can be killed. And remember what happened when you had an Iraqi or American contractor in Iraq killed in January 2020. That's when he launched the drone strike on Qasem Soleimani, head of the IRGC Quds Force. So the question is, do the Iranians decide that it's too risky to target any U.S. bases in the region? There are about 40 to 50,000 U.S. troops in the region.
Then the bunker busters could be on the way.
Yeah, so I would really pay attention to, for now, the White House has said they were not involved in yesterday's attack. They have told the Iranians to avoid targeting U.S. personnel and interest in the region. Again, the red line that we have seen President Trump enforce is on the death of Americans.
Vladimir Putin would say to Donald Trump about this, or President Xi? Do we even talk about Russia or China?
Well, I mean, China is basically the sole buyer of Iranian barrels at this point. I think obviously it's not in China's interest to have this blow up.
It's an unholy threesome. Those.
Add in North Korea as well, and you've got an unholy square.
Gang of four. Yeah.
But again, the question is, Putin can say, have views and thoughts on this.
Having an e-commerce store and a brick and mortar store, keeping track of inventory was a headache. Being able to use Shopify in-store and
one of the most famous sayings in politics is, don't ever let a good crisis go to waste. The same concept applies in investing. Right now, you keep hearing about the Israel-Iran situation getting worse. You're thinking oil, you're thinking defense stocks, you're thinking, oh my God, what's going on with the VIX? Half of you don't even know what the VIX stands for. You're trying to figure out, okay, what do I do with my portfolio when two countries go to war and there's a massive risk of all hell breaking loose? Should I buy more? Should I sell out completely? Should I hedge? Should I literally do nothing? Now, the crazy part about this, that while 90% of retail investors will do either of these two things, either play complete defense and not be in the market at all, sell out 100%, which is what most of them do when things get tough, or some of them will be buying the hype. The oil and defense, both are equally as bad. This is not what the top 1% investors do. Top 1% investors use things like this to get even richer. And in today's video, even though you don't have to click nothing, smash nothing, buy nothing, I'll teach you the exact blueprint of how to use this to get your portfolio up there. Not play defense, not survive, actually thrive and make even more money. The idea here is very, very simple, folks. Right now, we can talk all day, whether you pro this side or that side. We're talking about politics and morals and all that stuff, and it's all fine and dandy. And none of this is going to make you money. This is not about the war. It is not about the politics of it. It's not about the morals, who's right, who's wrong. It's irrelevant. We're here to talk about your money. That is the only thing that matters. Your money, your portfolio. Now, as I mentioned in the opener, going 100% cash in a time of crisis is a losing strategy long term, and that's a proven thing. As I showed you many times before, losing the top 10 best days over 20 years is going to slash your returns by half. And guess what? These best 10 days, they often come when most retail investors actually sell out. So please, for the love of God, don't do this. Going 100% cash because some country invaded another country, some country is shooting at another country, that's never a good idea. And I'll show you in a second the statistics. I'm not making this up. Now, here's the thing. A lot of investors are going to be thinking, well, maybe we should either buy oil or buy Lockheed Martin or Raytheon, the war stocks. A lot of investors are saying, well, maybe we should buy tech because tech is going to be beaten down. Maybe just buy the S&P 500. We'll talk about that in a second, that strategy. Now, I'm going to be level with you here. It ain't the first, it ain't the last, and it's not even the worst war you're going to see in your lifetime. For the past 50 years, we have had a lot of wars, a lot more than you can think of. In fact, for the past 30 years, we had a lot more wars than you can think of. But the thing is that the same story, as far as the stock market goes, plays out every single war. And every single time, 90% of retail investors are not smart enough to use this, and the little tiny percentage of investors that are actually smart enough and know the strategy, they are making 90% of the money. It's the 10-90 rule. The best 10% make 90% of the money. The same thing here, same playbook. I'm just going to tell you right now, if you just study history, which I'll show you today, you don't have to study the history, I actually brought it to you, you have the playbook. Because the same thing repeats itself every freaking time. I want to help you. I want you to succeed. I want you to do well. That is why I'm going to show you right now. I'm not selling this information. I'm not trying to get you to pay me. I want you to just pay attention and listen. Hopefully, I'm going to help a lot of you make a lot of money. Now,
¿Tienes una idea millonaria para una app web? Ahora puedes hacerla realidad con Hostinger Horizons.
Over the past 20 years, I've been investing in the stock market. I've been doing fairly well for myself. You know, I talked about stocks like Palantir, among others, Nvidia and Tesla, well before they shot up like crazy. In fact, the past 5 years, these stocks have done 1,500, 1,400%. I lost count. I had a lot of good picks, but it's not because I'm a genius. It's not because I have a crystal ball. It's because a system and discipline is worth money in the stock market. And that is why I have 20,000 members in my Heroic Academy that are paying me money every single day to learn the system. And also, while we're talking about geopolitics here a little bit, I actually am a geopolitics fanatic, and I do have a second channel called the Tom Nash Report where I'm almost at 100,000 subscribers. So I know geopolitics. I know the stock market. And I can tell you right now that most investors will completely misunderstand what to look at. They will be looking at the smokescreen. They will be looking at politics. That's not the key. You have to follow the money. If you want to make money, especially in wartime, you gotta follow the money. This is how real smart money plays war, and not the fake smart money who people telling you to buy Raytheon stocks and Lockheed Martin stocks. This, what I'm about to show you right now, this is how rich people get richer in times of war. And it's not going to be that long because the concepts are quite simple, to be honest, right? So here is our plan of attack. It's going to be comprised from 3 parts, right? Eventually, while we're done with these 3 parts, and I know eventually is not the right word, but I'm Russian, so it's not my first language, you know? Take shots at me in the comments, I don't care. At the end of the 3 parts, we're going to have a tactical plan to make money from this war. Plus, at the end of the video, I'm going to give you a 1 unicorn winner stock that basically is going to beat out everything given this new situation. So it's actually pretty cool, but that has to come at the end because first of all, I have to show the concepts and the principle. So the 3 parts of this attack plan include, number 1, history. What happened in the markets in previous times? Number 2, what got hit the most? What did the best and the worst sectors in wartime? And of course, number 3, what is the top 1% strategy to get richer from wars? We're going to take 1 and 2, combine them, and take the strategy out of them. And finally, at the end, I'm going to give you 1 stock which I think is going to blow everything else out of the water for the next few years, given the developments in the Middle East and generally the way the world is going right now. Now, right now, we're going to go to part 1, history. And I know history is a boring thing. You've all been conditioned to think that history is boring because the schools, they can't teach history. But the biggest mistake of the education system is failing to communicate that knowing history actually is worth a lot of money. If you know what happened the previous time this situation played out, that's a massive advantage. So this is the history lesson, right? War usually leads to chaos. I mean, that's a fact, right? And if we have chaos and uncertainty, markets hate uncertainty, they hate chaos, so the markets should crash. Huh? Not the case at all. In fact, this is what I'm talking about. Every time over the past 50 years that we had a war, we have seen an initial little dip followed by a huge bounce. And it happened within a year. This is literally the same thing that happens every time. War starts here, we have a little drop, and then for the next 12 months, we're actually here. So war, 30 days, we hit bottom, and after 35 days, sorry, not 30, 35 days, on average, in 12 months, we are already at all-time highs. Well, basically, the timeline is 0, 35, 12. If you remember this triangle, you're going to make a lot of money in stocks. Now, I've actually prepared some examples just so you see I'm not blowing smoke up your butt. Okay, here are the examples. Over the past 50 years, this is hardcore data, you can check me on this. Over the past 50 years, the average drawdown on the S&P 500 after a war started was 6.4% in 10 days. That is insane. Very, very harsh, right? But then after 35 days, as I mentioned, we break even on average. And by 12 months from that point, we are plus 9. So basically, if you buy here at the bottom, you're getting minus 6.4 and the 9%. So you can make 15.4% if you just understand this concept, just by sitting in the S&P 500, nothing else. And at this point, a lot of you will say, well, Tom, what about the past 30 years? I mean, 50 years is a long time. What happened recently? Okay, Let's take a look at the past 30 years. I got you covered, okay? So in the past 30 years, we actually had 70 wars happen in the world, which is insane to think about. 70 wars in 30 years. Just imagine how much of a chaotic place this universe is outside the little bubble that is the United States, okay? But we're not here to talk about that. For the past 30 years, in those 70 wars, the S&P 500 did 1176. 1,176%, 11.3% CAGR. Right? The NASDAQ went from 1,000 to 19,000, which is absolutely insane, which is 1,170%, which is a CAGR of 10.9. So both of them gave us about 11% CAGR in 30 years and 70 wars, with the slight edge through the S&P 500 with 11.3 over 10.9. Now, this 0.3 seems like it's irrelevant, it's minuscule, but when you go over 30 years, the 0.3 different, it actually becomes a huge part. But basically, this is just to show you that neither the NASDAQ nor the S&P 500 give a crap about a war, not even 70 wars, okay? So cool your jets, that's number one. Number two, even more interestingly, if you look at the best and the worst, performing sectors in war, and I've put them not by accident, okay? This is not an accident. Why do I say best and worst? You'll see in a second. There's a good answer, okay? So energy, the best, right? We have fears, uncertainty, supply chains, oil prices just spiked, as they always do. But guess what? If you go through history and you learn previous wars, the price of oil always spikes in the beginning and then it drops. The minute we have a little bit of a certainty, the peace talks, some sort of a calming down, ooh, they fall out the elevator. Look at what happened with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Oil went from 91 to 130 in March of 2022. Guess what? By December, it was at 70 bucks, okay? So betting on this and buying at 120, sure, you've made a little bit in the beginning, but long term, yikes. What about defense stocks? What about Lockheed and Raytheon and oh my God, and Kawasaki and Yamaha? This is a reference to Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, right? So defense stocks, same story, identical story, right? We have a flash in the pan. Simple as that. 2022, Russia invades Ukraine. Lockheed is up 32%. Flat within 12 months. Raytheon plus 22%. Mid-2023, flat. Nothing long term. Now, for traders, this might not be a bad trade. This might not be a bad trade at all. But traders have already placed their bets when the word was, that the war is about to start. When the word came out and everybody were, hush-hush talking about, oh my God, the war is going to start, the war is going to start. The traders actually already put their bets, okay? Buying now, you're already probably the sucker at the table. So be careful of that. But yeah, trading-wise, energy and defense, chef's kiss. But again, that opportunity, I don't know if it's there yet. At this point, might be gone already. But that's not my game. I'm not a trader. I'm a long-term investor. Now, the worst so-called worst performer in war is tech. People afraid. Tech, is very, very jumpy. They sell off immediately. But then tech always rebounds. 2022 NVIDIA. Ukraine invasion. NVIDIA drops from 300 to 108, right? Guess what? By 2023, it was at 500 plus. Apple dropped 25% when Russia invaded Ukraine. It hit all-time highs 12 months later. This is just two examples, but I can give you 20. 2,000 doesn't matter. The principle is the same. Tech outperforms long-term everything. And you get a little dip because of the war, which not just gives you the edge, it gives you a supercharged rocket to the moon. So you get the dip, you bring down your average, and then you ride it all the way up with tech if you have patience. Same story every freaking time. Nothing changes, okay? So let's talk about our plan, plus I promised you my winner stock, my unicorn stock that cannot be beaten over the next 5-10 years, given what's going on right now, okay? Number one, we understand, looking at the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, the past 50 years, the past 30 years, War is always a buy the dip opportunity. Always, 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 always long term. That's the same case, by the way, since 1940. Okay? We also understand that we always have a little dip, which traders use, but also can be used by long-term investors like you to bring down your cost, and then we have a strong year. If you use this dip, the strong year becomes even tastier. We also understand that oil and defense are only relevant for traders as a trade, not as a long-term investor, and at this point might be too late if you're a trader. I'm just saying, I don't know. But we also understand that the S&P 500, even though it is safer and has kind of a higher floor, it actually outperforms the NASDAQ if you look at wartime performance. Slightly, but still outperforms. And we also know that tech cleans the house. It beats everything else. So we understand that the game plan is buy the dip, avoid oil and defense, and actually go for tech and the S&P 500. Get some tech, get some S&P 500, avoid this crap, buy the dip, stay in longer, do a DCA strategy, and just...
IBKR Desktop va a convertirse en la plataforma de negociación por excelencia. IBKR Desktop ofrece una interfaz.
Bite your lips and wait for a year, for 18 months, and then reap the rewards. Now, the one unicorn stock I promised. We talked about the fact that we have defense stocks, which enjoy the initial spike, and then we talked about the tech stocks, which have the long-term bounce. But Palantir, ticker PLTR, actually has both. It has the defense mechanism inside because half of the business is government contracts, defense contracts, which means it will spike in times of war, which it did, by the way, already, and it might continue to do so. But it also has a massive tech element. Half its business is literally not war related, and it's probably the best AI stocks as far as infrastructure to look at right now, as far as the software side of things. So it has both these things. There's not a stock in the world that has these two combined, like Palantir. It is literally a unicorn that has defense and tech, and on top of it all, it was built to thrive in chaos. Palantir makes more money when there's war, when there's chaos, when supply chains are really screwed up, nobody knows what's going on, no political stability, lots of risk. When you need Palantir, when the world goes to shit, which it literally is happening right now, Palantir makes money. They make money out of chaos. They make sense of chaos. Oh, Tom, this is so unfair. They use the chaos to make money. Shut the fuck up, right? But Tom, but PE, Tom. Hang on a second. Okay, look. You will never, ever, ever buy generational companies like a Tesla, Nvidia, Palantir, Microsoft, you name it. You will never buy a generational company if you're going to be hyper-focusing on PE ratios. They're not for growth stocks. They're not for tech stocks. They're for Target and Walmart. The one thing you need to be looking at is how good is the business? How good is the moat? What's the total addressable market? What's better than the competition? What's the margin? What's the growth like? Etc., etc. You have better metrics for these companies, which none of these other talking heads is talking about. Things like PEG, things like Rule of 40, things that will give you a way better understandings of company like this instead of PE ratios. Things that will allow you to DCA and double down DCA into great stocks and not be thrown off by a high PE number. If you were looking at PE number, you have not made any single dollar on none of these stocks for the past few years. And maybe that's okay with you, but I like my 1,300% on Palantir. I like the other stuff I've made. Now look, if you want to learn PEG, Rule of 40, how to look at growth stocks, how to find the next Palantir, the next Nvidia, join the Academy. We have 20,000 members for a reason. It's not because I'm pretty, well maybe because I am, but mainly because I teach good technique. I don't give you stock picks. I don't feed you with a spoon what to buy and what to sell, never. I teach you a system. I teach you how to think for yourself, how to find the right companies, how to stay disciplined. I'll give you a community where you can come in, and smart investors will help you not to make stupid mistakes at the worst time possible. That is why we have 20,000 members, and I invite you to become one. Patreon.com/Tom Nash. We would love to see you there. If you want to check it out, you want to give it a whirl, try it out. I would love to see you there. I'll see you in the Academy. Peace.
All right. That was some good information. what I learned so far, tech always win during times of wars. And always buy the dip. Price usually always reverse in crises like this. So this is the stock he was talking about, guys. Me personally, I don't trade it, and I don't trade stock. Look at the chart. This is just not it for me. But it's pretty cool to see. I'm gonna keep this on my watch list just so I could be able to see how it's actually performing throughout this whole situation. But my personal unicorn is NAS 100 and gold. These two are my pairs. So I don't have any clear direction right now, clear entry for you guys to send a signal. So I'm just gonna be sitting on my hands for right now. But I will be up London session. If there's a signal, if there's a setup, I'll definitely send that trade to you guys for sure. But overall right now, I'm basically just sitting on my hands, just watching how the market is reacting, and I'm getting ready to pull the trigger real soon here. So with that being said, guys, I'm not gonna be here too long. That's pretty much it for me today. Let's stay locked in, let's stay focused, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace out.